we won't have any more problems. So we've got someone from Croatia, Zagreb, a place I would love to visit. I hear such wonderful things about Croatia. Someone from Turkey, we've got someone from Singapore, Switzerland, Malaysia. This is wonderful. Someone in London as well. So yeah, really, really nice to see you all. I'm very chuffed that we've got about 200 people signed up for this webinar. Not all of them joining us live, but they'll no doubt see the recording of the webinar, because I think this is a massively important topic to talk about. I think this is what makes TOK so wonderful and marvelous, using not just real life situations, but real life issues, as I'm going to try and discuss today. And it links to the release of a new resource, a huge new resource, which I'm predictably behind in launching, but we will get there by this month. It should be out this month. It's grown much bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I'll go through that in the webinar and show you what I mean by issues and how we can use them in our TOK classes. Okay, so I'm going to begin now. We haven't got all that many people joining us yet, but I'm sure more people will join us as we carry on. I think I might have thrown people slightly by appearing and then disappearing, but let's continue. Okay, so first of all, just a quick outline of what I'd like to discuss. I'll just go through what we'll be doing in the webinar, how to interact, ask questions, and so on. I'd like to just sing the praises of real life situations and using them in TOK, and why I think they're so important, and why I think they should drive your TOK lessons and course. I want to really talk about the kind of, well, using them. Okay, so first of all, the power of them, why they're brilliant. Secondly, how we are going to use that power, and then I want to talk about sort of broadening individual issues, individual situations, real life situations into kind of broader issues, and show you the kind of thing that I mean by that. Then I'm going to quickly just go through what the new resource looks like, and hopefully interest you and get you excited about using this new resource next year, because I think, you know, we're coming to an end. If we're in the Northern Hemisphere, and we mostly are, I think, in this webinar, we're coming to an end for the school year. So hopefully, if you're planning now, this might allow you to bring these things into your classroom next year. I've set up a load of webinars over the next few weeks and months. So I'm just going to quickly go over what they are. Some of them are free ones. Some of them are paid webinars, and I'll show you what we're going to be discussing over the next few months. And just a little bit of an update on what we're doing to the site for next year, because we're making loads and loads of changes, freshening up all of the lessons, introducing new resources such as this one, and doing some very important edits and hopefully improvements to the resources that we offer our members. Okay, so this webinar will last about 45 minutes, I expect. We've started slightly late, so we'll keep it short. I might try and allow a little time for questions at the very end if we do end slightly early. I am Michael Dunn. I'm the creator of theoryofknowledge.net, and been running this thing for quite a few years now. I think I'm probably familiar to most of you who signed up for this webinar, because I recognize a lot of emails out there. Questions and messages, yes, at the end if we have time. Otherwise, email. I'm very, very happy to field any questions you might have about issues, about other aspects of the course as well. And I will provide some answers in the debrief email, which I will send out to all of the people who have registered for this webinar as quickly as I can. So hopefully that will be later on today or early tomorrow. Okay, so these are the real life situations, events, issues, happenings, experiences, things that go on in the real world are really very close to my heart when it comes to TOK. One of the reasons why I set up my site, and the key reason why I designed the TOK newsletter, is because, you know, I previously used textbooks, and they provide a sort of, I suppose, a useful grounding in some of the concepts of TOK. But I personally found the real power of the course was applying the concepts and the ideas and the thinkers to real life situations, what's going on, and not just sort of in a general way, what's going on today, what's going on in the world over the last week. And this is what I really enjoy doing. And I watch my students' faces light up when I'm referring to absolutely up to the sort of second contemporary events, and they see the use of the course. They see the point of the course. The course begins to matter. So for me, using real life situations places TOK in a very authentic context. And it's sort of the proof, if you like, that TOK is worth the bother. And it's something that I mean, I spoke to an ex-student of mine the other day, and he said, TOK is really the course that has stuck with me. Now I've left the DP, because I'm constantly applying this sort of framework that you gave us to the real world. And that to me is the greatest accolade you can have, because I think this is what TOK does to us. Not just us sort of completely obsessed teachers of TOK, but the students themselves. And I think this is exactly what the IB mean when they talk about lifelong learners. So I get quite excited when I get feedback like that. So I make it my business, literally, to use real life situations to drive discussions in my lessons, drive the activities that we do, drive the thinking that goes on in the classroom, because these are the things that matter to students. Real life situations are very, very complicated. I think normally, as soon as you start probing them, they become complicated. They're multifaceted. They link to other issues, which is what I'll be talking about today. They not only do they talk about different aspects of TOK. You never get a story that's just about science or history or mathematics or language or whatever. They are multifaceted, and they draw on all aspects of the course for the most part. Excuse me. They also link to the other DP subjects as well. So real life situations are a fantastic way of integrating TOK with the rest of the diploma program. And you can transfer TOK skills into other classrooms and bring the learning from other classrooms into TOK. You can be asking your students to bring in their mathematical skills or their language skills or their sports science skills, whatever it is, into the TOK classroom if you are using real life situations. So there's a great deal of power for me to real life situations, and they are really what I make my central sort of aspect of my lessons and my units, the big questions, the way in which we structure the course. So how do we use them? I mean, I say we use them to drive discussions, but how do you do that? I mean, as I said, I really emphasize the importance of real life situations to students. I take a long time choosing interesting real life situations, things that I think will engage the students. I pick things that I know that they're sort of interested in. I pick quirky stories. I pick strange stories. I pick funny stories. I pick stories that matter. It's clear that there are some big issues that have to be discussed, but I don't just stick to those. I also think about Justin Bieber's hairstyle and other sort of quirky things that might link to different aspects of the course. So I make it my business to try and find really interesting little stories that I know are going to interest students. And I try and put at least one real life situation into every class that I teach in TOK. Now, one of the big changes for the 2022 the syllabus, the new syllabus of TOK, is that, yeah, this has always confused me, and I think it's always confused students. They are no longer they're no longer explicitly expected to identify knowledge questions. Okay, so but I've always found this quite complicated with the essay. There's reference to identifying knowledge questions when in fact they don't really need to do that. They just need to reframe knowledge questions. Anyway, that's all gone, so we don't have to be confused anymore. The emphasis now is on exploring knowledge questions rather than identifying knowledge questions. However, excuse me. However, I do think that it's a very important skill for students to be able to say, from a real life situation, from a news event, from an experience, whatever it is, what kind of questions it prompts in them, what kind of questions it leads us onto that we can use TOK to answer. So although we have had that slight shift, it's something that I still do with my students. It's something that I think they should still be able to do. Not so much for their performance in the assessment tasks, much more for their just understanding the course, enjoying the course, interacting in the course, and participating in what we do. Okay, so I do still expect them to say, well, this prompts these questions in me. I want to answer this kind of question. We can apply this to history and answer it using these sort of concepts that I've looked at, or whatever area of knowledge or theme it links to. So I mean, what I use, my key tool for harnessing real life situations is the newsletter, which of course every member should receive. I know I sometimes get people writing and saying, I'm not getting the newsletters. Well, you can either access it via the archive page on the site if you're a member, but it should be arriving in your inbox. And if you are having any kind of problems accessing it, then let me know. But here's what it looks like, the newsletter. If you're not familiar with it, or if you haven't used it recently, it's got a completely new design for the new academic year. I'm making much more use of the presentation that comes with it, and I hope that it's now easier to use in the classroom than it was before. And I hope that it's also a useful kind of tool for the students to use when they come to writing their essays and designing their presentations. So I won't go into it in detail, but you know, basically you receive 20 stories. 5 of them are sort of quick stories that I don't provide too much unpacking to. 15 of them they're unpacked in quite a lot of detail. Now, one change I'm about to add, which I will reiterate at the end of this webinar, we're doing a big sort of drive at theoryofknowledge.net, big improvement to the site. We are going to link everything we do to the 35 IA prompts. So the new newsletter, this is the last month's newsletter, the one that will be coming out over the next few days, will have a little section saying links to the TOK exhibition, and I'll give 1 or 2 of the 35 IA prompts that I think the story can help us to explore. Okay, so it's not just these real life situations are not just designed to engage students, not just designed to help them understand ideas of TOK ideas, not just there to show them the authenticity of the course, but it's also going to be a useful tool to help them in creating a great exhibition. So this is what the newsletter looks like. This is what I draw on in lessons. This is what I also use these stories and I build them into my classroom presentations. There's a quick source outline. The key terms there, if you're not sort of familiar with the 12 key concepts of TOK, make sure you are when you begin teaching the course. So there are 2 key terms there that come from those 12 key concepts: perspective and truth. So they sort of appear in red. The relevant big question unit that you can relate it to in this case is foundation. So it's all about the nature of knowledge. And then you've got links to the course. I want non-TOK teachers using the newsletter. I want non-TOK students discussing real life situations and asking the kind of questions that we ask in TOK. So I'm trying here to help you encourage that to happen. I know in some schools it happens brilliantly, in some schools it's not. Right, now here's the sort of new thing: investigating issues. Okay, so very soon on the site you're going to have access to this huge new resource. I have designed it so that it looks about 100 different issues. I'll show you what they are very shortly. So this first story is all about The Last of Us 2, which is a new video game, or relatively new video game, and the writer of this article is suggesting that this is great art that we're looking at here. We're not just looking at a game. We're not just looking at screens. I hate the way people just write off anything that is on a screen. This is art. This is true art because it changes our perspectives. It changes the way we view the world. It forces us to see the world from different points of view. And the writer of this article says, you know, that is one of the key characteristics of great art. So there's a little bit of discussion that you can have with students. I mean, you can set up some great debates here, all about whether, you know, what characterizes great art. Is a video game great art? Obviously some are, some aren't. You know, what are the difference between them? And then if you want to do a little bit of extra research, you can point them in the direction of the exploration points document, which are found on all of the free parts of the site. And there's a link to the investigation issues there. So this now looks like this on the presentation that comes with the newsletter. And I hope that this will help you sort of present it in class a little bit more. I'm not going to do it now, but it's an animated slide, so you can make each one appear as you discuss it. And if you want, you can download these. You can produce a whole sort of PDF document, which means basically you get a new sort of TOK textbook every single month. Or you can just download it as a single document and upload it to Google Classroom or whatever you use, and you can get your students looking at these different real-life situations and issues, and they can build up a library for their assessment tasks at the end of the year. So that's what the newsletter looks like now. That's how I use real-life situations. That's some of the brief reasons why I think real-life situations are so wonderful, and I love them as a part of the course. Now I want to sort of talk about extending real life situations into real life issues. So let's just present again, and then I'll show you what the resource looks like. So as I have kind of noticed, I mean, I've been creating the newsletter for a long time. I've been collecting stories for a long time. I've actually got, you know, I've got an archive of thousands of stories going back to sort of 2014, I think, is the first day that I started producing the newsletter. Quite a rudimentary looking newsletter now. I think the new one has progressed quite nicely. But I realized, wow, you know, I've got certain stories that keep sort of reappearing, dealing with the same sort of theme, dealing with the same issue. What would happen if I started collating these together? Can I do that? And can I will this be of use to teachers? Will this help them? And I hope the answer is yes. Because as soon as you start collecting, you know, individual real life situations, individual media stories, and grouping them together, you start creating issues rather than just situations. And I think it starts to become quite interesting. It helps students to understand the wider context of media stories. You know, they're not just looking at one story about, I don't know, cognitive bias or whatever it is. They're looking at a series of stories about this, and they realize, wow, this is quite a big issue. This is quite an important topic. I need to know a little bit about this. And it allows them to evaluate the significance of these events and these topics and interlink them. And also it helps them to see the way in which the same kind of story, the same kind of topic, the same issue can be represented in different sort of press sources, you know, according to the bias or the perspective of the press. You know, quite a lot of my issues are treated very differently according to the political alignment of the source or the person who is writing. Some of them clearly have an agenda that leads them to their conclusion, and it's often different from what other people come up with. So it starts becoming very interesting when you're not just looking at one real life situation, but you're looking at multiple ones, and that, I hope, comes across in the resource investigating issues. So it allows us to go into a much deeper level for these real life situations, and it allows us to really see the importance of those 12 key concepts and other ideas that are sort of close to us in the TOK course. Okay, so this is what I've managed to create, or I'm nearly sort of finished creating it. It's called Investigating Issues. There is I hope an engaging image of a person setting fire to a newspaper. I thought that was vaguely relevant, but I also thought it looked quite cool. So this is the imagery, the key image for this particular resource. So the resource presents about 100 or so issues, links them to the TOK course. For each of the issues, there's a little overview, which may be superfluous, but I didn't want to make the assumption that all of these things would be immediately understood and recognized by students. So I've given a little overview of each one. I've linked it to the areas of knowledge and the themes that it aligns to. And this is the really important bit, and I've started doing this actually over the last few days, but I've realized that it works really, really well. I've linked each issue to an IA prompt, because our students are expected to show overall with the exhibition how TOK concepts manifest in the real world. And this I hope will be a really, really useful tool to enable them to do that. They're also expected to provide strong evidence for their arguments and their points in their commentary. So again, referring to issues going on in the world, I think definitely does that. Then I've given you, as well as those two things, I've also given you links to several what I hope are really good media sources. So articles, predominantly articles, but there are quite a few videos in there. There are interviews with people, there are podcasts and so on. And I hope that they look at the issue from different perspectives. I think sometimes there'll be quite a similar perspective, but I hope I've thrown in some that present a really different perspective. And students can sort of consider why that difference might exist. So the resources is, and this is what I'm always hoping for. I don't know how kind of utopian this thinking is, but I'm hoping that it won't just be used in the TOK classroom. I'm hoping that it will be used in other DP classrooms. I will show you in a minute what kind of issues we're dealing with, and I hope that all DP teachers are trying to use their subjects to explore these really big things going on in the world. Some of them are clearly aligned. Some of them maybe we have to do a little bit more work to fit them into our classroom. But I hope that your DP teachers are including a lot of contemporary news stories and issues in their classroom. I hope that this will help them. So we'll see. The resource can be very much teacher-led. It can be something that you use, you set up in your classroom. Maybe you give students a choice of things that they explore, but you're sort of driving them and you're discussing it with them. Or it can be a resource that you give to students to help them to construct their final assessment tasks or cover a certain part of the course. Okay, so it can be sort of used in both of those ways. All right, so this is what it looks like. Then we have the image again. So there's loads. It's kind of grown. I always do this. I come up with an idea and I think, yeah, that's good and manageable. I'll finish it off in a week or so. It's turned quite large. Okay, so these are some of the issues that we're looking at. These are, I've got multiple stories, multiple real life situations for all of these different issues. And you can see the sort of variety there. You'll immediately see that we've got certain things that align very, very quickly and easily and naturally to the course. COVID in history, we've got behavioral economics, we've got algorithms. It's easy to link those to aspects of the course. Some of them perhaps a little bit more difficult to do that, but they all, of course, align to an area of knowledge, a theme, or one of the other DP courses. So that's A to F, of course. That's not the only selection of real life issues. Here we've got more. You can see, I hope that we're really looking at things that are going on right now. We're right in the middle of many of these controversies, issues, whatever you want to call them. And then finally, we've got those there. So it's quite a large resource. Yeah, it will be out later on in the month. So that's what we're looking at. That's what it's going to include. And I hope that I enable you to look at all of those things within the classroom. Now, what the actual resource looks like is this. So I better go quite quickly because I don't want to make it slow. So we start with artificial intelligence. I won't read through what each one is. Another link here, actually, which I didn't mention earlier. I'm very keen to make sure our resources all interlink. So investigating issues goes very, very nicely hand in hand with knowledge heroes. Which is another resource actually finished. So one knowledge hero who features in our course is the artist Mario Klingman, and you can click on that link to take you to Knowledge Heroes. Look him up, and if you're a student, suddenly let's say you can see the link to the TOK exhibition. Let's say you're doing the first IA prompt, or the 13th IA prompt, this issue could easily be included in your exhibition, and you could draw on the key thinker, the knowledge hero up there. So I think it's quite a useful resource for students to use on their own, and I think that it will work with a teacher leading it. So that sets it up and links it to the course. Then we've got our media sources. So you've got a Guardian, an Independent, another Guardian article. We've got a Big Think article. Another Guardian article. So you've got a series of different articles. So we've got climate change here. Lots of links to the course, climate change, of course. TOK exhibition. So I try and put this issue within the context of one of the IA prompts. Can we produce knowledge about this issue without bias? I think what a great thing to sort of look at. Of course, we have to remember that the recommendation is that the exhibition is set within a context related to the themes. Now, you don't have to do that. It's not an obligation. You're not assessed on that. I think basing the objects or linking the objects to kind of climate change would be a great thing to do, because it doesn't have to be a human or natural sciences kind of discussion. It could be about politics. It could be about your sort of religious persuasions. It could be the extent to which you're aligned to an indigenous society. So those are the themes. And of course, knowledge and the knower, thinking about our biases, our ability perhaps to accept that we might be wrong, to be open-minded. So I think climate change, have objects related to climate change would be a good choice for the exhibition. So that's the link to the TOK exhibition. We've got key concepts. I want to encourage students as much as possible to use the key concepts in their commentaries and also their TOK essays. So of course, this doesn't just relate to the exhibition; it relates to the essay as well. So I think that this will help them to do that. And then you've got a series of stories: Wired, Big Think, New Humanist, Guardian, BBC, CNN, and yeah, quite a few actually for climate change. It's obviously quite a big issue to look at. Fake news, not the easiest one to do, because it's such a catch-all term, isn't it? Fake news. But I think it's an important one to think about. Links to the TOK exhibition, what kind of key concepts we can use when we look at fake news. Some stories, there are thousands of stories on fake news. And I will be updating this resource every single month, based on the stories that we see in the newsletter. So any real life situation that I use in the newsletter, I will then add to investigating issues. Indigenous languages under threat. I think this is a really important issue that perhaps doesn't get enough coverage in schools. Yeah, what a fantastic sort of exhibition that would make. The loss of language and what that means in terms of how we communicate our ideas. It would be a great thing to look at for a TOK exhibition. Culture and power, I think, very important key concepts for something related to that. And then you've got a few stories there. I've actually got another couple of stories related to this that I'll be adding quite soon. Oops, we've gone too far. Okay, so that's the, I think that by showing you what the resource is, I'm sort of explaining how we extend a real life situation into an issue, how we use it, or how we could use it in the classroom, and hopefully I've interested you a little bit in what we're producing, what we'll be releasing later on in the month. So that's coming up. As soon as I've got it ready, I will of course be highlighting it in social media and email and all the rest of it, so you will know as soon as it's ready to be used. But it will definitely be ready to be used for the new academic year for the Northern Hemisphere, very comfortably for the new academic year for the Southern Hemisphere, if you're watching from somewhere down below the equator, as where I used to be working. Okay. So this is gonna, well, yes, it's 11:40, so we should have time for a few questions if you have any. I just wanted to go through some of the webinars that I'll be delivering over the next few weeks. The next one will be on the 22nd of June. I'm going to be looking at designing great TOK lessons. I've called this a masterclass instead of a webinar. The idea is, and I'll be doing this very shortly, is that you can send me questions. If you want to participate in this one, you can send me questions which I will try and deal with in the session. I'll be offering my thoughts on what makes a great TOK lesson, how you design and plan a great TOK lesson, how you deliver it, how you relate it to the rest of your, not just unit, but also the course as a whole, and even sort of critical thinking in general, if we can go sort of that far. So I'll be talking about quite a lot of things in that session. You can purchase a ticket by following that link. I'll be obviously sending this presentation out to people shortly after this webinar ends. I have some very talented ex-students, and I love hearing about success of my students. A group of my students from Peru have just set up a new company called Dream, and it's dedicated to helping students, mainly from Latin America, but in theory from all over the world, get into universities. Universities in the States, in Australia, in the UK, in Canada, etc. They use their experiences and their expertise in helping students to get into university and win places where they want to go abroad. I think TOK can be a really useful tool in helping you get into university. I think it strengthens your university application profile hugely. So I've agreed to do a little session with Dream with my ex-students, which I'll be doing on Thursday, the 24th of June. So it's quite a busy week, that one. In July, if you are not sort of sunning yourself and taking it easy and relaxing, and you want to do some work instead and watch a webinar, I will be doing again quite an important webinar. This will be talking a lot more about how I am going to link our resources at theoryofknowledge.net, but also, you know, just talking about that in general, to the exhibition prompts. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be linking every single lesson to an exhibition prompt. All of the resources like this one, Investigating Issues, Knowledge Heroes, the newsletter, everything we produce is going to be linked more to the exhibition prompts. So students will be absolute experts on those 35 prompts by the time they have to choose one, and they should know really early on in the course what they're going to do for their exhibition, and then, you know, they can begin thinking about the sort of objects that they want to use. Obviously you can do it the other way around and start with your objects, but you know, this will at least give them, I think, an intimate knowledge of all of the prompts. That's a free one, and you can register by following that link. Yeah, sorry, the one for the 24th of June, I will add the link because I do have it now when I send out this, before I send out this presentation. 19th of August, so a lot of schools will have started back by then. Some of you will still be very happily on holiday. Some of you will be back at school. I am going to be doing a webinar on demystifying TOK. Now, this is primarily for students. I've priced it quite reasonably. It's only $10. So I want to try and not scare students with this weird course and give them some kind of, I suppose, sort of hacks to realize that TOK is something that is fantastic and wonderful and to be enjoyed, rather than thought of as this rather weird, strange, undesirable subject. So I'll be trying to demystify TOK and persuading them that it's a great thing to do. So that's on the 19th of August. And then a year ago or 2 years ago, I did a webinar which was really popular with people around the world on introducing TOK, how you introduce TOK to your members of staff, non-TOK teachers, in other words. And I need to update it because that one was based on the presentation. It was based on the old syllabus. I'll be doing a new one on the 2nd of September, so almost certainly when you have started back at school. So that's what's coming up. Links there to allow you to register or purchase a ticket for any of those webinars. And then finally, I'm not really going to go into too much detail here. You can look at this when you receive the presentation. There's going to be loads more resources on the site. Site's going to be updated. All of the lessons are going to be updated. It's all going to be sort of freshened up and looking beautiful for the new academic year, new style of newsletter, etc., etc. So it's all going to be lovely and wonderful. And as I'm repeating again and again, extensive linking of all the resources to the TOK exhibition prompts so that students know exactly how to do it. Okay, I think we're going to call a halt there. I apologize once again for the slight technical issue. I'm going to phone up Virgin and find out what happened to my internet connection earlier. But if anyone has any questions right now, I will happily field them. I think I've already got one. Well, that's a simple question. Will the slides be shared with us after the webinar? Absolutely. I will be sending them to you. You can access this presentation and the recording of the webinar very shortly, as soon as I sort of process the video. Any other questions before I leave it? Okay, I think if you have any questions, you can certainly email them to me. Someone's just said, do you do memberships mid-year? Absolutely, of course. Any time of the year, you can join us. Your membership will last for 12 months from the moment you purchase membership. So yes, it really makes no difference when you join us. You'll have 12 months of access. After that, if you need any help with signing up, just let me know and I can help you out. Okay, fantastic. I'm really glad that I had so many people joining me for this, or so many people registering. Hang on, sorry, I've just had another question. Do you have any advice about avoiding real life situations that might be offensive to students or staff? I think that's a really good question. And I've spent most of my teaching life working in Latin America, Colombia, Peru, various schools in Peru, and the thing that I was always conscious of was religion, and not well. I mean, obviously, I don't want to have any religious agenda at all. But at the same time, I want my students to think about their own kind of religious backgrounds and their own religious perspectives. So it's sometimes quite hard to juggle it. I don't think I have any general advice. I mean, I would sort of be, I think planning is very, very important, of course. You know, you've got to think about what, which way certain real life situations could be conceived of by your students. You don't want to be too provocative, but at the same time, you do want to sort of probe their assumptions. It's, I think, with time, you know, of course, you learn what your students respond to well, and I think a lot of real life situations that I've used recently have been to do with sort of cognitive biases and arguments and communication. You know, one of the key aspects of the course for me is helping students to communicate. And there's a fantastic little video which I do use in some of the early lessons by Donald Hoffman. It's a Big Think video. If you haven't seen it, just put in Donald Hoffman Big Think debate or argument or whatever, and he offers some fantastic advice before you begin a discussion and before you begin a debate. And it's very simple. It's just you define your terms. Okay, so you know, if you're dealing with a real life situation that you might be worried about, I think you need to define your terms. You know, as he says in this video, for example, the word God, we can all have a completely different concept of what that is, and our arguments that might ensue are to do with different conceptions of the word, you know, semantics rather than any genuine disagreement. Similarly, you know, in science, you know, the word gene can be interpreted in different ways. So you know, there are a lot of perhaps that's one piece of advice. Just be clear about your terms, and you know, this is what we mean by this term, this is what we mean by this concept. I don't know, but yeah, it's something that, you know, you definitely learn about with your students, and it's a fine line between being too provocative and ending up just them feeling like they need to be defensive about what they believe, and giving them a kind of supportive structure to explore their own assumptions about the world, their own perspectives and viewpoints. So yeah, it's a hard one to get right. It's definitely an important issue. I do think about it a lot, and I think different stories work with different cultural contexts. Some I would never use with a group of students from one particular culture. Others would work perfectly well in another context. So, you know, looks like you're in Switzerland, so I'm not sure what your context is like. Presumably quite cosmopolitan. You've got people from all over the world, so that could make it quite challenging. But yeah, it's a good question. All right, fantastic. I hope that gives some advice. I hope that helps to some degree. I can be contacted. You know, that's the kind of question I'd love to get into in a sort of email conversation. You know, if you have any specific examples of things that you're worried about, I'd sort of be interested to see what they might be and why they might cause issues. But I do think we should be, you know, testing our students, challenging our students, encouraging them to question their own ideas about the world. So we've got to do that, I think. Right, brilliant. I hope to see you in the next webinars coming up. If you have any questions about membership, if you have any questions about resources, don't hesitate to email me, michael@theoryofknowledge.net. Very easy to contact. There are loads of contact forms on the site, so we are quite easy to get in touch with. Many thanks. Have a great day, and I hope to see you in the webinars coming up. Goodbye.